And welcome back to Conversation Day TT 2020. I'm Franka Philip, and I am going to be talking, well actually I'm not going to be doing much of the speaking. I'm just going to be guiding this conversation about has COVID made us smarter? And to my left we have Rhyjell man. How are you?
I'm good.
He's an attorney. Could you get my notes? I forgot my notes, sorry. And Teocah Dove, who is a strategist. And she said that she's been talking about this 3 times for the day. Teocah, you said
Yes.
you had 3 different platforms to speak about this on.
I have.
Thank you. No, my other notes. And Kheston Walkins, who is at Allegory. You're the chief
Neuroinnovator.
Neuroinnovator. What does that mean? You deal with nerves.
I deal with the brain, yeah.
Excellent. So, let's start talking about COVID and us being smarter. Are we smarter now as a result of COVID, do you think?
Me personally, I think the intelligence is kind of going to come as we pass through it, because there's a trauma, right? So we had an incident, some trauma, and then we have 2 options. One of it is to learn from it, and one of it, the other one is to be scared of it. In our case, we had a real good response, in my personal opinion, by the government. So we feel, at least it gives us a sense that we have control over it, right? And we can solve something like that in the future. So in one, I think we will get smarter, we'll continue to get smarter. I think we dealt with it smartly. So that's my kind of response to what she said. Yeah.
Teocah, you said this how many times today now?
So I definitely think it has made us smarter in the context of, for many countries, we've been lagging behind in technological advancement. I was sharing earlier the experience of my personal bank, where if I wanted to do a wire transfer, I had to send them an email, call in, confirm, do all of these things. And within two weeks of the shutdown, I realized, wait, they had an ad and they said, banking is now made easy and I could easily do an online transfer. We have seen schools who will always say, oh, teachers have to do this in the classroom and this in the classroom. Immediately shift and go, for those teachers who are teaching, and go online to providing education online. We've seen healthcare evolve and become telehealth. And every sector had to change. So I think what COVID did, if we look at it from a positive perspective, yes, there has been a lot of trauma, but one, it has taught us and the younger generation resilience at a very early age.
I agree.
2, it has taught us, it is the greatest disruptor that we've had in life, in our generation.
I think most people, yeah.
So it was disruptive. So it fueled innovation. So now everyone had to rethink, how do I survive? But more importantly, for students who are now in school, for everyone who's operating, this is a perfect time to revision and reimagine yourself. Because if you're in school and you're doing anything right now that doesn't involve technology, or involves contact, or involves actual paper money, then you miss the mark and the plot.
Yeah.
Let a reimagining of yourself, your professional capacity, and the path that you want be fueled out of this time.
It's interesting that you said that, and when you talked about money especially, I know that especially in places like the UK and in the Far East particularly, contactless is the way to go. People are passing by, they're just swiping their cards, or they're not even just using their phone.
They're not even
to
swiping
buy
their
stuff,
cards.
you know. So
Yesterday,
then you
I paid for
avoid
something
that.
via a link.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Rhyjell, what have you found in terms of work, in terms of anything that has gotten you to change the way you do it in this COVID time?
Well, before we even get to technology, I think that what COVID did was made us smarter about our health.
Yes.
I think that was the biggest takeaway from the pandemic on a whole.
Yep.
But to hone in on technology, my personal experience, something that, well, I'm an attorney, so something that I hoped existed before I even became an attorney has now come into fruition immediately because of the pandemic, which is going to court online, filing documents online. I've had a few matters virtually, didn't have to leave home. So those kind of things really showed you, like, yeah, we going somewhere, but it's sad that it took the pandemic for that to happen. And I think that speaks to a bigger issue in terms of the minds that empowered aren't really innovative, and it took literally, we had no choice to do simple things to progress us now. So I think that I would say we are appearing to be smarter, but if we have the same regressive policymakers, then we'll be stuck. So the real takeaway should be that perhaps the baton needs to be passed, and other people need to think, all right, how could we advance every industry?
Else we'll be waiting for the next trauma to
Exactly.
come.
When is the next pandemic? We have to wait 100 years again?
But more importantly, I think the difference is that this is here with us at least for a year, unless a vaccine is found soon. But we need to look at what was born out of this period. We have hundreds of companies now rushing to make a vaccine. One, or the first one, or the most successful one, will be applied to the pandemic, and then vaccines will be distributed. But all the other tests and medicine that they are also testing will be used for other things. So out of that, you see an emergence of different sorts of medication that can be used in the future. We really have to look at this moment, and I hear people saying 2020 is over, and I said this a number of times this year. If you think 2020 is over, you've missed the plot. If you told a Fortune 500 CEO or any CEO, the smallest business, you have to close your business for 2 months, or they say you're a madman, I can't do that. But we were forced to do that.
And it makes us think
This
of
was a
innovation.
period of
Yes.
humbling and disruptiveness, and it was meant to birth a new world and a new you. So you have to now think smart. You can't go back into the new world thinking the same way you used to, because you realize that you will not thrive and you will not prosper.
Well, so that makes the assumption that there's impetus to do it, right? In this case, well, now there is, right?
Yeah.
But what happens after, as you were saying?
Correct.
So,
But it's here for a year.
So-
So if you spend the whole year thinking, okay, I'm going to go back selling, and decide to do, I'm going to go back selling and doing
It
that.
already has, though.
Not on a whole.
I can speak for people in my sphere.
If I could buy doubles now.
They've gone back
In a
to
shop. Why? Am I going
working
back
8
when?
to 4 every day, as usual. Even those who aren't, and I mean, I guess these are the few businesses or companies that still think in the right way.
Yeah.
Some people aren't staggered like twice a week or every other day. But we've seen that the need to physically be in spaces is not necessary, which is something that, you know, people have been saying for some time. In fact, if you look at Jack Dorsey, CEO at Twitter, he said employees never have to come back to work.
Exactly.
Yes.
So that,
Yeah.
you know, the world is so technologically advanced. This should really be an opportunity to propel that, because now you have a perfect landscape for the youth to now have multiple professions from home.
Yeah.
You know, if you start to tell people I have to go to work 8 to 4 every day of the week, you then limit potential. I'm an attorney and I also do visual media. And because I don't have to physically be somewhere, I can, you know, contribute effectively or positively all over the place. So I feel as though, I hear what you're saying, but I'm just seeing it reverting. You since the phases have been going on, you just see everything, especially on the 22nd when the bars and the beaches and stuff open.
Yeah.
I don't think it's not going to be with business as usual. It's going to look the same and operate the same for the most part.
For those who are not, who don't have the capacity or missed the moment. But for many, they are already revisioning how
You
they
think that's in the
approach it.
majority?
I'm saying this one speaks about, talking about the impetus. So, for example, a country, what's important to them is preserve law, at least how our constitution is designed, to preserve the life and the well-being of the people. So when people die, they act.
Right.
That's just kind of how it is in the world.
Yes.
Now, on the other hand, with the corporates, they have their businesses. When the profits start to go down, they act.
Right.
So let's take another example. I don't know if I'll get flack for this, but you have people who will be paid anyway.
Right.
Yes.
So you have government workers, other things like that, that there's no impetus to change. So it relies on the policymakers, and in this case, we had a big response from health because they have to. We have a big response from border control or national security because they have to. You get what I'm saying? But there is a large swath of people employed by the government that there is no impetus to change.
So
And
are
that's
you
not-
Government
So
doesn't
you-
drive innovation.
So you're saying that there's
Let's
no...
be real.
The
True,
environment
that's
is...
true.
So you say that
Because
we
it
don't have
goes
the
in
environment?
economic
I think we
diversification.
don't have the mindset, and that is what we need to develop. Just last night I heard the Prime Minister in Parliament yesterday speak about an e-identity. Did you see that on the news?
No,
That
I
will
didn't see that, no.
transform the way we operate.
Yes.
Because if every time, when I worked, the one time I worked in the public sector as a consultant, there was this file. This
We know the
file
story
with the government
defines,
tags,
yes.
those green
The green
tags,
tags.
they used to haunt me because I was only thinking, Lord, if that tag bursts, or if the tag bursts the paper that's in the file, then I need to start this process all over again.
Yes.
And that is what
This is
really
for handling
made,
records or something?
Yes,
for
everybody has a
anything.
file.
If you want something approved, the file goes 1 desk to 2 desks to 3 desks, and that poor tag hole in one for their life. And that is why things are so slow in the system. It is a major reason why, and I grew a bit of empathy for public sector after that. It's a major reason why things are so slow. So now if a case file is online, it's easy for you to edit, make your notes, and then another lawyer to take it over easily online rather than have to make it down to the office to do that. So that would be beautiful for our country in carrying us forward. And at this point, I want to advocate, and all as we prepare for a general election, I hope that seeing what has happened, both political parties, free advice, are looking within their manifestos to bring back the Ministry of Science, Technology, and I would add one more term to that, social innovation. And that ministry should be the heart of the country. You have the best innovators, the best scientists, the best software specialists disrupting, hacking, and making new ideas to carry this country forward. So if that's not part of the recovery committee, then it's in time, right?
Well, we have
need to carry
Another
forward.
governance issue, right?
That is a governance.
That's a governance issue.
That's from policy, but you need policy to really transform beyond private sector, because private sector make decisions based on
They're
profit.
more agile, right?
Right,
more
but we
agile.
need a reculturalization of thinking in the country, and it has to start and be shaped with policy. Look at mass culture. That is because of a policy decision. Everywhere you go now, you can't get in without a mask, right? So because of our culture as well as a people, it has to policy and government.
It's not also not only just culture but education. The way that what I learned when I was in school, it did not prepare me for the 2020 that I'm living in now. So that
yes.
I feel as though like in everything, really and truly, as Dr. Rick Williams said, the future of the country is in the book bag of the youths. Yes. That is the most important area, because if they prepared from primary school, go up, then in the event of another, I guess, pandemic or whatever happens, the way that things had to shut down won't happen, because really and truly the people who felt the effects of it were of a certain age up. That didn't affect my little nephews and them. They just knew, all right, well, you know, now we have to go to class on the laptop. But we have conditioned our comfort around that old way of living now. So in the same way that we have to change the culture, we have to change what we teach the youths and make sure that they're up to date.
But one of the things that I found that happened, a lot of people would be saying, yes, we are smarter, we can do this or we can do that now. But one of the things that I found what happened with COVID is that it showed up the stark inequalities within our system. So for example, education. If you have more than one child and they're going to different schools, you have a problem with that laptop. If they have that one laptop. For example, what about kids that don't have a laptop? How does that child get his education?
All of these things need to be a regular
Yeah, so
part
how,
of it.
and so then how do we address those inequalities? People, for example, were saying things like, okay, I don't mind working from home, but my Wi-Fi not built for that, right?
So
Is the system able to accommodate all that? Is it that we are doing seemingly smarter things, but we really kind of winging it because we don't have the infrastructure and the foundation to go along with it?
So I think there's some figuring out to do, for sure. So they have a similar challenge in Africa where they have the average age, in some of the countries, the average age of the population is like 14 or something like that, right? That's crazy, that's huge. So they have a lot of people who can go into school, but they don't have they have enough space in their schools, right? So this is similar. In this case, they can't go into the school, right? It's comparable. They have to find some way to teach these children and give them education that can move them on to the future. They have the same challenge. They don't have enough computers. They don't have enough this and that and the other. And that's why there's some of these companies projecting internet, right? It's almost like in the balloons that Facebook wants to do and those kinds of projects. So things like that, there. On Trinidad's hand, that's a social... The government has money that they put into doing social projects.
Yes.
Right? We had the laptop for all the things that happened some time ago, which wasn't done well. And that's why I keep harking back to the governance issue. If you don't have proper governance, it don't really matter what policies you have. How the policies are enacted is is more important than the policies itself.
Yes,
right?
of course.
Yeah. So that's my point.
I think for me, and I was listening to the debates around SEO, right? And when SEO will be, and I wondered, and when we're talking about making us smarter, I wondered if we really had any idea that what these children would have gone through in the last 2 months. Children, so I'm an only child, so I think this resonated with me a little bit better. When you're home, you have no contact, and you can still play in the yard and so forth, or you can go see a neighbor or a friend. Children, one day they were in school, and then there was an announcement that they had to go home. They can't see their friends.
Yes.
They have no contact. You can't go outside and play. There's no playtime. You're in the house with your mother and she's frustrated, or your mother or your father. Some of them can teach you who don't have the resources, have to try to teach you, and there are some who just can't teach you, and you have to navigate all of this. And then you're taking the children from in that stressful period, coming back to school, not allowing them any time to acclimatize themselves and come back to some level of mental normalcy. And then you're saying 1 month of jam-pack studying for an exam.
Yep.
Did we think about that? So there's no period of coming back down and feeling normal after being in this intense period. And I don't know if they thought about that when they were making their decisions, but I didn't hear an announcement of we would have 1 week of support systems in place or some sort of just...
That's because no one died.
Right.
Or not enough people.
Yeah, but I just think it's unjust. And in making us smart, I don't want us to think also about being smart with technology. I want us to think about being smart with empathy. And that's something we really miss. Because if you don't have emotional intelligence, you could have the best ideas and the best gadgets, and your culture and your people will not be inspired to create and work.
But do you think that we have in any way become more emotionally intelligent? Do you think that this time has given people the opportunity to revisit the way they operate? Do you think a lot of people are looking at life differently in that way, the average person? From what you can tell?
Time will show.
Especially because of news. I mean, seeing how fortunate we were as a country because of the way that we were prepared as compared to what happened in Europe and what's happening in South America and America now. I mean, yeah, if you're not empathetic to that, that's a you problem, you know. But I think generally speaking, you felt that everybody definitely had a certain amount of empathy.
Okay, so I think what happened is the amount of agency that people had changed, right? And the people on the lowest end of it would have been the children. They as you said, everything that you said.
I don't agree with that.
When I say agency, I mean the ability to control what happens in their lives. That's what I'm referring to. You have an objection?
I think we're missing out a major thing here. Beyond the children, there are a group of people and I wouldn't say, I would use privilege in this context, but it would be very broad, who did not experience reduced income, who did not experience, the only thing they do, they had to work from home. But there were a group of people who now had no income, had to, and I said this online, and I hope I'm not, beg, borrow, bend down, try by any means necessary to get money. So now, whether it's trust in a shop or do whatever, right, to feed their families. And they are now in debt. So the 2, 3, 4 fortnight pay, where the country has now opened back up, there are a group of mothers and families who now have to pay off debt from staying home all this time. So that is the real challenge, because we're talking about sending children back to school. Where's the money coming from for some people? There was support, and I applaud the government on their response. There was definitely support, but it didn't reach to some people who needed it in time. There were some who were still hungry and in need, so yes, children were affected by, but I also want us to think about the financial perspective and the burden that put on some families, and how the Ministry of Social Development and the support networks around now try to support people, because there's one thing to be in a pandemic and be stressed and be anxious. It's one thing to be in a pandemic, stressed and anxious, poor and with nothing to feed children.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So each of us at the table speak from a position of privilege.
Certainly.
Right?
Yes,
I acknowledge it. Yeah.
All right. And I did not have it as hard as some others had. I have to admit that.
Yeah.
So I do fully understand.
Yeah.
That being said, I saw that this is the first time the government had to do this in parallel with all the other programs.
And they did quite well.
That they had to execute.
Certainly.
So for sure the brush didn't get all of the spots on the wall.
Yeah.
But there was a brush movement, and that I'm appreciative of. I think I'll say that.
And it's to be
openly.
applauded.
So when the question that was asked was, because you kind of brought it up, it was about this empathy that we had. And I think within our peers, yeah. But what I was referring to is that children didn't have access to that. Some of them were fortunate because they have their phones and they could text their friends and they could play video games and Minecraft and all that kinds of stuff, but some of them didn't get that. So in the business that I do, we help students that have issues with focusing and all that stuff. And I get a lot of requests from parents now to prepare them for SEA because it's so soon and they're under high stress. So I know for sure empirically, because I don't know, it's hundreds of visitors I get.
Well, I know for sure because I was one of his subjects.
Okay.
He brought my brain back.
Full disclosure.
Full disclosure. He brought my brain back from not being able to focus on all of that. So yes.
But yeah, so I get hundreds of visits a day because of that same thing.
Yeah.
So it means that there's a problem, right? And when the policymakers decided, or the people decided to have the thing on that date, I'm not 100% sure that they were thinking about the children, but they were same. It's true for the parents, because there's some parents who want it to happen on that day because they just want the stress over with.
They want to get it out of the
They want to
way.
get it out of the way, right? But no one asked the children. I have not read anything online which says my child wants this.
Well,
why are
because
the parents
we have a culture
where are the voices of the
we have a
children?
culture of this should never be a surprise. We have a culture of children don't know anything. They don't know what's good for them. That's a normal
We don't
school
include
of
them.
thought.
Yes.
Not even just children. Like anybody below the age of 18 expected to just take the guidance.
You
of
don't
an
have a
adult.
voice in this.
Yeah.
This
So
decision is
especially SEA, this exam that we think is the most perfect way to evaluate you. Nobody even spoke about, well, why do they even need an exam? Is there rethinking of the way that they evaluate it?
Are we being smart in that way?
I look at the tertiary education institutions who changed their structure. Instead of having an exam, they had assignments. Obviously, you had a short window, some of them a day or two, to finish your assignments, and you will be examined based on that, which is way more progressive, it's way more realistic to real life. So maybe they don't need SEA, but nobody thought about that, you know.
So, well, I mean, in Barbados, they're trying their best with that. We'll find what will happen over the next few years. And in Jamaica,
they have quite a progressive prime minister over there.
And they have a much smaller population.
True, isn't it? Yes. And I think that's one of the advantage that we have as small island states in getting smarter. That is, we can test and validate stuff a lot faster than a lot of
big
other countries. Right?
Yes.
So America started their e-governance program, and that was within the last 5 years or so. Could be a little more than 5 years. No, it was in Obama administration. So that's 12 years almost, right? Like a bit. I don't know whatever the number is, right? But it's like a bit of years ago. By that point, Estonia already had theirs.
Estonia is the model for smart, I think.
And that's who the Prime Minister said that we're looking at their system to replicate.
But it did not take them long to do it. They did it in a modular way. They changed one ministry, and then they started to unify the look and feels of their websites, right? That's what they did. And it was really impressive. Well, I saw this because I went on a program, and you know the Americans, they love to talk about how amazing they are. And I did it for that, right? Right. So anyways, I look at that and I think those are things that we can emulate, but not just that. If we have, there's something called open data. That is where we share and exchange knowledge, and I think that's probably one of the most important and pivotal things that we can do in this time as a region, right? And that's information sharing, because Barbados is working on the education part with SEA. Let's learn from that, right? And take that information and do that. But will that actually happen? I don't know. You have Jamaica. They made big changes with the SEA program too. It's called PEP, I think, and it's emphasizing critical thinking. That's something that they did in Cape a host of years before, because Cape replaced A levels, right? And that's the thing trying to emphasize. But the poor thing so hard on the PEP students that they're crying and coming out to the exams. And guess what we have in Trinidad? The tribal students crying and coming out of the exams. Was the point I'm trying to make? Change is not just about change. You don't make change for change's sake, right? You have to make change that benefits the customers.
Yeah.
And in this case, especially with education, since we're on that now, the
It
children,
doesn't.
the children and the customers. And that's a mistake that they make. They make the parents the customers. But the parents aren't the customers. The children are the customers.
Children,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
So in terms of, we talked about children, in terms of adults, how do you think, what are the things you think that we need to do more of to be, quote unquote, all around smarter? Not just having the banking, not just having the ability to do everything wirelessly, but as a nation, the way that we move, the way that we think, our culture. Look at our carnival, for example. The fact is that we are now having to rethink carnival. What are we doing? How should we? Gelsman, you are in that field. What you all are thinking
you
of?
know, I have to credit one of my friends by the name of Kiri Moses. We had this idea where the fact that Carnival is the birthplace of Carnival is in Trinidad, that in itself makes Carnival a natural resource of ours. And it doesn't have to be only those 2 days or that period. There should be a permanent Carnival village in somewhere in the capital that anybody can visit any time of the year and get an authentic Carnival experience. Because if you go to New Orleans, if you go to Brazil, if you go to Miami, if you go to Nottingham, these things exist. Even the Gap in Barbados, they have a year-round activity. The closest thing after that is the Avenue, and the Avenue is closed.
Copyright that idea. Put it in an envelope, send it back to yourself, and register me, because somebody's listening.
If that exists, the knowledge that Carnival needs to be reshaped on those 2 days will have far less of a psychological effect on the community, because we can experience Carnival whenever we kind of want.
And then we could spread the economic benefits wider.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because, you know, when you think about it, I was chatting with Dean Akin from Tribe, the Tribe company, 6 bands. And when he started to explain the ecosystem around Tribe, you recognize, wow, this industry
it's a lot of people.
It's a lot of people.
Benefit from
and there are a lot of people for whom Carnival is the thing they do during the year to make money for the rest of the year.
Imagine having that for the year.
Yes.
I mean, obviously it's going to be scaled down, but it's going to exist.
But we can look at different elements.
That's what it is.
Sustainable. We can look at different elements. So, for example, in the regions, we talk about regional mass. Why is it that I can't go in the middle of June and get the Whipmasters? Like, you know, I could now go to Pyramid and get the Blue Devils, but maybe in different areas.
Because they don't have a platform besides that. And then what has happened now with the advent of social media and sort of appealing to the global market, you found that certain aspects of the culture being lost because they're just not profitable. You know, you go to stick fighting, it's the same 200, 300 people. You go to Canbole riots, you go to Blue Devils, you go to Pan, it's the same crowds every year. Because, I mean, why should I as a businessman invest in that? It's not really giving me any returns, there's only defects, etc. So that platform is like very important to be established.
So we could take some of the examples that we've seen globally that have happened, like artificial intelligence, all kind of thing, apply it to our culture, and therefore I think we will be a lot smarter in that regard.
I think we have to do that.
Yeah.
There's another space, it wasn't mentioned yet, but it applies somewhat to, it's connected somewhat to what you said, and that's athletics.
Athletics, let's hear it.
The world is going to consume us if we don't start using data and analytics in our athletic programs, right? So I was fortunate to be part of a panel that was talking about the future of sport. So this conversation just makes sense to bring it up. And we had some people on there, some amazing people out of Washington that were doing research with athletes. And they were also doing studies for physiological studies, mental studies, all that stuff. But we don't have that here in the region. We just like run as hard as they can, keep going to your training, and run, and run faster than the Americans or whoever it is on the track team. And there's clear that we have inherent talent, but they are pumping so much money into R&D.
Yeah.
Like and there's this cool thing that in the Caribbean, there's somebody's, I can't say out of Jamaica, they have a way of calculating and working out where you're going to get injured based on lactic acid production, anybody, right? And some things like that. I might have not described it perfectly, but the point is predicting this injury. right? But if you can predict injury, you can work out how hard you can train, so you can maximize the training. But that's not something that's applied. So on one hand, you have people who are doing amazing things in your region, innovators, etc., etc. And on the other hand, there's the lack of application. But we see that if we copy other countries that have made the application of the same thing you're talking about, machine learning and all these kinds of things, we can actually catapult ourselves into progress, primarily because we are pregnant with talent.
And you know, one of the things that has come through that I've seen across the region with sport is coaches having to think now, okay, we were supposed to be training ourselves for 2 weeks' time to be trying to get that gold medal. Now we have to think about July 2021, right? So then I think what I've seen happening on a lot of platforms, coaches have been using a lot of new psychology. They've been using different approaches. They have been using data, because you have to now reframe the way that you're training. Because remember, you were trying to peak for July.
That's right.
So then what do you do now? You know, so there's a whole lot of work that's going on, I think, across the region.
Periodization.
There is one other area I think is long overdue for evaluation, and that's inter-Caribbean travel. Because the idea now that someone coming from America or South America, the epicenters of the virus right now, into the Caribbean, that's a 2021 late reality. It's very unlikely that that travel is going to be as frequent as it would have been previously. So if we now start to recognize the Caribbean and CARICOM...
St. Lucia is a test case. St. Lucia open back up. So only US citizens coming in, and Jamaica.
If we...
So that's it.
If we use this time now to sort of make that CARICOM reality, especially inside travel. That dream that we always had, we all have CARICOM passports, we CSME and all of this. Make it easier, we will have less reliance on that foreign currency and protect ourselves, because for the most part the Caribbean is overcoming the pandemic.
And in that case, it's one of the easier ones to solve, because it's an economic hurdle. The Caribbean travel is primarily an economic hurdle. We already put things in place so people can work in other countries. We already have airlines that fly to most of the countries. But the challenge, one of the challenges, and people complain about this, is the very high, the taxes, the high rates that make it difficult for us to transit. So that one is one of the ones that are not that hard to solve.
It is.
You think it's hard?
No, yes.
Why do you
because
think so?
The reason the taxes were so high is because those taxes contribute to the economies of those countries. Now with less money, they will be hard pressed to delete that, because that is also an income stream.
I disagree.
They will see it twofold. You can say lessen the tax and more people will come because the flights will be cheaper, but also for those who don't have foresight, will they come? Do people have do they have money to travel right now? So you're right, it's a total economic decision, but we have to think that it's also an income stream for many countries. That's how they upkeep their airports, etc. And they would basically be saying, okay, I will put aside or forego this money in the hopes that more people will come, and that money will go into the economy of the country.
So I'll give you an example. So we have to stop.
We're kind of on time, but I mean, I like where this is going. But here's what I'm going to ask you all. I want to give you all each the final word. Teocah, what do we need to do to become truly smarter?
Reculturalize our thinking. We need to... I heard the discussion today. We are all part, I've been part of the discussion for quite a while. But we sit in an office, right? And we proved that with our conversation today. We sit in an office and we make decisions. So the ministry sat with tutor and they had consultations with National Parents Association, and they made their decision. But who's the target population for that decision? The young people.
That's right.
The children. And they did not consult them. Did they have consultations with them? The same how you could consult with them teach them on Zoom. You couldn't consult with them on Zoom. We need to stop, make policy and implement programs with our thinking and in our minds with our privilege, and start working and doing open innovation with the people who it really affects to create the solutions to their own challenges. We have this complex, I know what this group of people wants, and I know what that. Did you just tell you they want a stipend? No. That's why they're insulted. They want their 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019
Increments.
salary. They want more, they want toilet paper in the schools and not have to take money out of their own pocket to buy supplies for children. So are you really consulting and listening and creating solutions with the people in mind that the people wanted? No. And that is why we have failed for a long time in this space. If you make people part of the solution, then they have a social equity in it, and they are committed to working towards that solution because they were part of it. But when you go to all these wide consultations that we love to do in this country, and then one nice consultant sits, I know because I've been there, and then they write up the policy on their own, they drop what is not fitting with the status quo, they put in what they feel to put in, and then they hand it over to the agency and say, this is it. And that's not what the people want.
And they say thanks and hand them the check.
Thanks, and you hand the check and you go your way, and that's that. And you don't try, so that's what we have to do. Let people, open innovation is the word, let people disrupt and create their own solutions, and they'll be a part of the sustainability of that solution.
Excellent.
So
Kheston?
on mine, I think a couple things. One of them would be data sharing, collecting data and sharing data. And the other one is collective intelligence. It's still connected to that. It's connected to what you said too. We need to involve a lot of other people in the conversation. That is super important. But not just have them talk, because we're really good at that. But collect empirical evidence to move forward. And collective intelligence is not a new thing. The Grecians did it in the way that they did governance and all those kinds of stuff. And then when we have data sharing, you get it from obviously different places. And I think particularly with this, the way that this was handled with our government, it was clear that there was a lot of inter-ministerial collaboration. So you had the Ministry of Communication, the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of National Security, and so on. And I think that action is something that we need to keep promulgating and promoting. Right?
My sentiments are the same. I think that we need to focus more on the youth, not just create policies to assist them, but to include them. When you if you go to apply for a job, the most important part of the requirements is experience, and the future is in technology. In fact, I watched a video the other day where there's a theory that humanity is actually evolving into technology as opposed to technology evolving from us. And who are most equipped with technology? Barely even me. I saw a cell phone when I was 13 years old, 14 years old, and I'll be 29 in August. They simply don't have the wherewithal to make the right decisions. It's not that their heart isn't in a good place. They really want to, but you can't. There are people who are just born into this. So it's either they get the ability to make policies, or they are, as my friend mentioned here, consulted on the policies, because the creative and most forward-thinking ideas are going to come from those minds.
Yes.
That's just how life works.
Right, fantastic. So that was our panel, Has COVID Made Us Smarter? I want to thank Rhyjell Ellis, better known as Gelsman, Kheston Walkins, and Teocah Dove. Stay tuned, we have more coming.